Grab your big book, your pen, your highlighter, and notepad and get ready to hear and apply some of the solution from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous through the experience, strength, and hope of Nikki M. To have a question addressed in a future episode of Noodle It Out with Nikki, please send an email to noodlewithnikki@gmail.com, and Nikki is spelled with 2 Ks. To get a more interactive experience with Nikki as she noodles out life and recovery questions using the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, you can get a link to her weekly Noodle It Out with Nikki meeting held live on Zoom every Monday morning at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. The information to that meeting is in the show notes of this podcast. God morning, God afternoon, and God evening to all. My name is Justin B., and I am a son of an all-powerful and all-loving God and a qualifying addict of multiple fellowships, living in the miracle of recovery, and I'm here with the intelligent agent, spearhead of God's ever-advancing creation, and my co-host, Nikki M. Nikki, please take a minute and tell us a little bit about what's going on and introduce yourself.
Okay, well, hi, everybody. I don't ever know if it's good morning, God afternoon, God night, around the world, because we're a global fellowship. I mean, this is what the Big Book says. I'm Nikki M, and I'm an intelligent agent spearhead of God's ever-advancing creation. As the book says, I should think I am that and know that I am that. And it also says when I'm speaking publicly is just introduce myself as a member. The book also says that, you know, it's a vision for you. I love the vision for you chapter because it gets ignored. And I mean, this book is never ending. It's a treasure map. If you're just joining us, we use the 4th edition of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. But it says it's open to anyone and everyone looking for a spiritual way of life. So, hi, I'm Nikki M, and I'm a seeker today. I'm seeking a spiritual way of life.
Thanks for seeking with me, Nikki. This is good stuff. I really appreciate these times together when we get to record and ask and answer questions and just talk things out. It's good stuff. Now, I'm going to share just a little bit about RICO 12 and the family of recovery resources we have here. We've got the speaker meeting, which is our flagship program, which records every Friday, and this podcast posts every Friday. We've got RICO 12 Shares, which is an open meeting. Let's get some people sharing on that. Links in the show notes of the podcast there. Got a couple more projects. This one, Noodle It Out with Nikki M, is one that releases every Tuesday. And we've also got the Big Book Roundtable, which is really fun as we're going through the Big Book paragraph by paragraph from the beginning to the end. And that releases every Thursday. So jump in anytime you're looking for some uplifting thing. Consider RICO 12 and the different resources we have as one of those moments to seek experience, strength, and hope. All right, let's jump right into this. In the Noodle It Out with Nikki podcast, it's an exercise and deep dive into finding solutions to questions, issues, and things we encounter in everyday life from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'll bring a question or two each time we record to Nikki, and she will, as we'll walk together through this and look through the Big Book for solutions. So everybody out there, grab your Big Book, get ready to run around in it. We're going to be bouncing from page to page to get into the solution. Now, as I often introduce myself in these recordings, I am a son of an all-powerful and all-loving God. Nikki, there's a lot going on in the world today. And the question that I bring to you today is one that I've heard many people bring up in the past, and especially right now. And I'm going to just read this, what I've got here. I'm angry and frightened with all the suffering and wars and wrong in the world. I can't stop obsessing on this. How can I even think that there is a loving and powerful God if all this is happening? Nikki, what does the book say? Where's the solution here?
Okay, well, it's all over the book. And so thank you, Justin. I mean, this is true. It's like we're waking up today and, well, there's just so much happening outside of myself in the world. I don't even need to go there. I do want to just rewind a little bit back to, and you said, you know, we're fully self-supporting. And in the forward to the 2nd edition, I just want to remind people there are no dues and fees. Our expenses are met by voluntary contributions. And, you know, our meeting, I just want to thank RICO 12. They host the Noodle meeting every Monday where we really start getting high on what I call God dope. It's a pep rally every Monday. I hear this. Some of our friends on Noodle say, you know, I used to hate Monday mornings, but we started out really in the solution. And so I just want to remind everybody the 7th tradition is so important, and RICO family, I'm just grateful to be a part of it. So back to the misery of wars and people suffering. And, I have a friend whose child was, the worst thing, raped, murdered, cut up, and found on Toronto Island. How could these calamities happen? And there's a loving, all-powerful God. That's what, that's what it said. Well, let's think about a God that doesn't give us free will. Page 28. Let's just all turn to page 28. Remember, we're asked to come in here and sweep away our prejudice. We have to sweep away all prejudice. This asks us to be honest, open-minded, and willing for a new experience. So it's like a clean chalkboard, clean slate board in your head, Justin. But let's just think about that right now, because it says right here on page 28, it is proved to be the loving, powerful hand of God. Nikki, how can there be a, excuse me, I got a little frog in my throat, a loving, all-powerful hand of God when all these awful things are happening? Now imagine a God that doesn't give us free will. Sin is sin. I've done some awful, horrible things to people, including my own children. And it's like, oh, but we're talking about this kind of sin. Sin is sin. Okay, so let's just go there. We have a free will, loving, all-powerful God. Okay, and it also says, this is a design for living. A new life has been given us. Remember, common sense thus becomes uncommon sense, says the big book on page 13. But we are right now, friends, on page 28. And so a new life has been given to us, or if you prefer, a design for living that really works. And it even says in rough going. I think that's on page 15. We can just roll back to page 15 right now. Because it says on page 15, it is a design for living that works in rough going. See, we're in a rough going right now. I was in COVID, Justin. I lost my job. I'm 50 now. And looking back, I don't know. It was the worst time of my life, Justin. I lost all my rights. I lost my job. I couldn't see the man I love for 2.5 years. I couldn't get into America, your country, and just tell this year, May. Okay, so there was a lot of resentments and hard times. And it says, this is the design for living that works in rough going. So roll back. We're right on page 15. Let's look at page 14. And here it is to the person who says, there's wars and there's destruction and children are suffering in this loving and all-powerful God's world. It says, the bottom page, for if an addict, and I like to go, or how about if somebody's suffering, because it is the disease of alcoholism, Justin. So if anybody listening here, moms, families, hey, bosses, coworkers, if you are suffering from the disease of alcoholism, and it's a family disease over which we have no power, says the book, and if you fail to perfect, not be perfect, but to perfect and enlarge, remember, Justin, we said we're both seeking God today, so we need to enlarge our spiritual life. This is a spiritual life. We entered a spirit world. Oh, but I'm human, Nikki. Well, we're entering a spirit world. Person arguing for your limitations. And it says through work. What's the work? The 12 steps of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Every day, all day, work and self-sacrifice. I cannot do the things I want to do. That does not just include Thanksgiving here in Canada. That doesn't mean I can't just get to eat the extra pumpkin pie or call the ex from 5 million years ago that I remember that time we were together on Thanksgiving. No. Or picking up the wine because it's a holiday, alcoholics out there. This goes to self-sacrifice. I don't, and we're going to go to other instructions here in a minute. I don't get to indulge in these things. Right? For others, it says, I won't survive there's a word, Justin, certain trials. COVID was a trial. I didn't know at the time, Justin, when I lost my 6-figure job, that I would be here retired. It sounds like an evil laugh, but if you saw my face, it's like I'm retired. I was like, oh, when I hit 65, 70, the pension, Nikki, no, God's going to take care of your mortgage. God's going to throw you into retirement. You're going to have to make some self-sacrifices and work. You can't just sit in your bed and cry. post, get angry at the world, get resentments, get weird, get into fear, what's going to happen. Because it says here, it says right here, you'll think, you'll act out, you'll drink again, you'll act out, you'll drug, you'll do whatever, you'll eat, you'll scroll, you'll post something, and everyone will hate you, Nikki. Because I have a wicked tongue too. I spit fire when I want to. And then I will surely die with us. It's just like that, Justin. So it says I have to abandon myself. So you ask, like, there's a war. So we talked about a loving and powerful God. We have free will. We have to do this work or we won't survive the trials. Page 132, everybody. See, there's lots of instructions in here. Because Justin, on page 132, it says, we're speaking to you of serious and tragic things. Children, awful things. I mean, don't talk to me, Justin, about animals and children. There's no God in that world when children and animals are abused, let alone wars and people. And it doesn't matter what side you're on. It's all destruction and not good. And we're dealing with alcohol, addiction, awful things in the world in its worst aspect. Here it is, Justin. We are not a glum lot. If our new friends, if newcomers could see no fun or joy in our existence, they won't want it. I had to show up every day in COVID, losing everything, Justin. And I was happy. This was not fake because I saw God had me serving she's 94 now. She survived COVID, Auntie, my mom, the dogs, everything. I was a volunteer. I became a professional volunteer. The Salvation Army needed me to feed food at that time. And I was there to do it. I had to lose my job to serve Auntie who was going to feed her. Like grocery stores you couldn't get in. I mean, it was nuts. Everybody drift out. Now we're in a war. We're in wars constantly. This is not new stuff. So what's the next line say? It says, we absolutely insist on enjoying life. Even though someone just died, Nikki, even though it's a war, it says we absolutely, because it says we do not, Justin, I crossed out try because I'm a student of Yoda. We do not indulge in the cynicism over the state of the nations, nor does Justin B or Nikki M carry the world's troubles on our shoulders. Go down to the next paragraph. We think, Justin and I know, that cheerfulness and laughter make for usefulness. That doesn't mean we laugh at or with it. You understand there's a time and place because we have discernment now because we aren't blotting out the consciousness of our existence. Maybe we are humble and don't even have words. We just say what the book says because let's just roll into this. It says we have recovered and been given power. Don't forget we tap power, everybody. This is not mediocre recovery we're talking about, Justin. We're talking about power. That's how we can deal with this in tragedy and seemingly hopeless states of mind and body. Because page 68, and then I'll let you get on the mic here, is perhaps there is a better way, Justin. We know so. We, Justin, are now on a different basis, Justin. Because on page 63, we gave our life to God, step 3, decision. We are on the basis of trusting and relying upon God. And that's a God of your understanding, a loving and powerful God, not a punishing God, a God that gives everyone free will, and some of them use it in the wrong way, isn't it? So we trust an infinite God. We trust an infinite amount of humility, an infinite amount of I don't know better, an infinite amount of loving, tolerance, kindness, patience, hope, forgiveness, love, the spiritual principles, and an infinite amount of that. Because Justin, you and I are in the world to play the role God assigns, and we were not assigned the role of God.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Nikki. And I've got a very firsthand experience, strength, and hope on this topic here. About a year and a half ago, when all of the crap started happening or really hitting the fan in like Ukraine, I was obsessing about the world, about things going on in the world. I was losing my mind and losing my serenity, losing everything that really had been holding me together for several years in recovery, several years in trying to be in a healthy, good place. And at that point, I received I received guidance, and I'm going to call it a commandment that I received, a command I received to stop watching the news, to stop reading the news, to stop looking at these things because I have zero control over them. And I was given the guidance to go from looking at those things that I have no control over to looking at the things that I have some influence on. I can't influence what's going on in Ukraine. I can't influence what's going on in Israel, but I can influence what's going on in my life and in my home and maybe even in my community around me by practicing these principles that we're talking about. And that's where it needs to be, because that's where change happens that will eventually make it to the world. But right now I don't need to be there. And that when I said, okay, I guess I won't watch, read, listen to the news anymore. I'm going to make that commitment one day at a time. And I've done very well on that for over a year and a half now. And the peace that I feel is great. Now I'm still somewhat aware of what's going on because people talk about it around me. But you know, it's, I'm at peace. I'm able to smile. I'm able to go about my life. So there's my personal experience on this topic that has brought me a lot of peace, is to just step back and say, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. There's our serenity prayer. And that's where I'm trying to live in this. What are your thoughts or feedback on that, Nikki?
Oh, well, exactly, Justin. There's things I can't do because it's like, well, Nikki, this is the disease. You can't drink. You can't do that. I can do things that other people cannot do. Our behavior patterns vary. Page 22. I'm a lunatic without picking up a drink. So I'm not, and I'm 50. I'm not emotionally mature to post on any social media or get engaged in that kind of stuff. So me too, Justin, I'm not allowed to do that. To do that, to post, is to die for me, because if you don't give me the validation, if you don't agree with me, I'm not going to don't you know what's happened to me? Don't you understand? You can say that like it goes real twisted because I have twisted thinking. It says that on page 133, my twisted thinking doesn't vanish overnight. So it says right here, I'm getting back into the social life of this world. I don't start to withdraw again. That's on page 102. So I'm back into the social life that I don't have to engage. I can use humility, discernment, because it says page 102, my job now is to be at a place where I may be of maximum helpfulness. Does that mean it says you are getting back into the social life. Don't withdraw. Oh, I'm going to be at this party. They're going to be drinking, talking about what's going on. I can go. There's going to be pretty women at the wedding wearing low-cut shirts. I can go. There's going to be this and all these things. I can't go. No, we can go anywhere as long as we're spiritually fit. So is what I'm saying, doing, thinking, our thought life, page, I think it's 84, 85, will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking, our thought life. So these are what was my thoughts when you were saying that. I wrote where you were talking some page numbers. So it was 102. We don't isolate. Our job is to be helpful. Our thought life. Where's our thought life? Page 59. May you find him now. What's missing in this moment? Nothing. Am I in the middle of no. What is the next right thing? Page 420. Marijuana addicts. That isn't pick up a joint and go to your local 420 shop. That is you do the next right thing and you leave the results up to God. And then it goes into page 70, Justin. If sex is troublesome. Well, Nikki, we're talking about wars. Well, if war is troublesome, if your fear is troublesome, if people's opinions are troublesome, if your fantasy, and I don't mean some beautiful secretary coming to your office, I mean the fantasy that you're going to starve or the people you love are going to be, bombed out or whatever it looks like, that I'm never going to get on a plane again. That's where my fantasy took me. And Justin, let me remind you, I just flew home first class from Germany last trip I came home from Luxembourg. And so, because I had to stop over in Frankfurt, that miracle. I don't know what God has planned, everybody. Our past is our greatest asset. So there was the dance. Get into now. Nothing's missing. Get into serving, doing the next right thing, throw yourself harder. As Justin said, like, make your bed. Did you plan a nice dinner for the family in front of you? Or are you worrying about the family that really in this moment, God is going to take care of? God is the director. We are God's agent. Oh, I got to save the world, Nikki, says Justin. No, Justin, you are in the world to play the role God assigns. Today, it seems like you're to do this, whatever you do at Noodle, because I don't even know. You just push a button and here I am on someone's voice. But you're also in the world, you're a husband. And you have all these other roles. You're an employer. Like, you have all these roles to play. You are not the director of the world and how things are going to play out. It's really radical, living in the principles of the program, which is humility. We don't know better. Which is trusting an infinite God. Which is being helpful, one foot in front of the other, soldier. We're in a war, spiritual warfare. I mean, I'm going to drop that, and you can do your own Googling on that part. But we're seeking God here, and God's right in front of us doing the next right thing, Justin.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Nikki, for bringing up the concept of fantasy. And it opened my eyes a ton just in this conversation. Fantasy to me was always, the dream, like, yeah, the great things are going to happen, or these things that the beautiful secretary is going to come in and, whatever. All of these things were fantasy, but fantasy is also the nightmare, the me projecting the worst that could happen. That's living in fantasy. That's fake news, like what you call it, Nikki. All of these things it's fake news. And if I get caught up in that, I'm going to lose my sanity. I'm going to lose my serenity. Step 2 could restore us to sanity. Well, if I'm not going to allow, if I kick God off of God's throne, however you envision that, and I put myself on that throne, I've lost my sanity. I have not been restored to sanity right then. And then I'm going crazy trying to playing God's part rather than the part God assigns me. So this is good stuff. Nikki, any closing thoughts before we?
Yeah, just a closing thought on that insanity part. Like you said, restore us to sanity. And so what is sanity? Sanity for us is a state in which we think and behave in a balanced, healthy, and life-giving way. Insanity is to do the opposite, where we constantly make choices that undermine the well-being of ourselves and those around us. It's insanity, Justin, for us to accept less than what God intended. And God didn't intend for us to be, you'd be prime minister or you'd president in your country. I'd be prime minister. We'd be controlling the universe. But right now, God has put us in a different role. And you and I love, another book called the Bible of Proverbs, like, see the ants. They don't have a leader. They don't have a commander. They just kind of, have you ever seen what an ant does? And that, I've seen this thing where they pour the, Google it, everybody. I love Google, Dr. Google, where they pour the cement and you can go in and they chip away and see what ants build. There's no leader. They just kind of all work together for the greater good. Let's just see what the ant does, and just, you and I'll just chip away a little bit at a time, doing the next right thing.
Love it. Thank you so much, Nikki. Everybody, this is where the solution is. Not with Nikki, not with me. The solution is with our higher power. We're just trying to experience that and share our experience, strength, and hope. Keep coming back. This all works. Giving this all to God, it works. So work it. You are worth it.